Alright, let's be clear. I didn't forget. It's just I'm on spring break, and my recording schedule got a little thrown off. So here I am to indulge again upon a reading, and these two chapters that I'm reading are definitely um, they're two that I remember like distinctly writing about in my journal at the time. My journal at the time being whatever piece of paper or notebook I could find when thinking. So also one of those notebooks and writings that is just like a mishmash of zombie notes and all this kind of stuff. But they are both still um, events in my life, and especially in freshman year, that I can almost recount and like sense, smell, feel. It's just one of those things. Um, and so that's where we'll go with. And once again, thank you to anyone and everyone who happened to be like following along. But anyway, uh, let's get started. And time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. As spring started and we came back from break, one of the things on the calendar was the coronation dance, and I had started to toy with an idea. I hadn't really been focused on anything regarding relationships, but Jessica and I had been talking about it in some of our frequent hangouts. She had the idea of maybe approaching a guy that we knew from a few of our classes, Ryan, and I encouraged her to do just that. "What about you?" she asked. "I mean, well, maybe there's somebody." "Who?" she followed up. We were on one of our walks and had gotten back closer to her townhouse when she asked. "It's Emily," I said. I told her I planned on getting maybe like a flower or a card and putting it in her locker, and Jessica offered to help. I explained to her that while Emily and I had only been friends, but that recently I had started to feel a bit of a crush on her, and that she was certainly someone I'd like to get to know better. We had spent a lot of time in choir, but it was mostly as a trio with Kate, and I was hoping, well, to change that. The few times Emily and I had a chance to hang out, though, we seemed to be able to hit it off pretty well. I figured the worst that would happen would be a no, and to be clear, it wouldn't exactly change what I was used to. But the best would be a yes. And if it was a yes, then I'd have to contend with what to do on a date, even if the dance was just between two friends. Either way, the one thing that did feel settled was that being nervous about it was luckily something I didn't immediately feel. Emily had captured a bit of my freshman heart, and Jessica thought it was cute. Since I didn't have a locker freshman year, Jessica thought it might be helpful because she did have a locker in the same area as Emily's, and it meant a lot to me that she offered. And with her support, it made it easier when those nerves eventually did kick in as the day arrived for my plan. So, employing her help, I figured that would all work out by the end of the week. I told Jessica in return that whatever she needed help with on her date, let me know and we'd get it moving. A few days later, with the card and flower delivered, I would get my answer. "You asked Emily to coronation?" Kate's voice echoed through the hall, and I could see her walking my way before the first hour bell. "You didn't think of letting me know?" "I didn't know that was a thing," I responded. "We've hung out a few times, talked on the phone. She's cool, so why not?" Kate had made it to me before Emily had, and I could see Emily and her friend, Erin O., were walking my way. I wasn't sure if Kate was really angry that I hadn't consulted her about asking Emily to the dance, or if she was just surprised. I looked past her, my attention turned to Emily, who held the card and flower that Jessica had put on her locker, and Erin was smiling behind her. "This is really sweet, thank you," Emily said. Sensing a soft rejection, I waited for the but. Emily continued. I'd be happy to go to coronation with you. We'll talk about it in choir and at lunch, okay? Yeah, absolutely. I felt both surprise and elation, and Emily and Aaron went walking to class, and Aunt Kate looked at me with a bit of a smile, and I shrugged, still smiling as she walked off to catch up with Emily. Jessica popped into the hallway almost out of nowhere. It worked, I said. Hell yeah, it did, she replied. We raced off to our first hour courses, and she was going to be asking her potential date later that day, too, which, of course, I had to be there for. The night of coronation, Emily and I met at the school, and she was beautiful. She wore a black dress, her hair was curled, and I just was in awe. I felt like the luckiest guy there, and that our chance meeting one day after school and how it would lead to getting to Emily better and leading to this moment would be both a memory and blessing I would never forget. I brought her a corsage and walked through the hallway of the school into the cafeteria where the dance was being held. As we walked in and the dance got underway, the first thing we wanted to do was take photos, as both our parents wanted to see how cute we were, as parents do. The picture of us from that dance is still in a scrapbook my mom has in my parents' house, and was also the beginning of how much my family adored Emily as well. After our photo, we took a group photo with Crystal and Charlie and two of Charlie's friends who were visiting. I was surrounded by women, and a smile I could not hide to save my life. Once pictures were over and one of the more energetic songs finished, the first song of the night to slow dance to was Unchained Melody. As we danced, Emily mentioned it was one of her favorite songs, and her sharing this with me felt like a wonderful insight into her. I made sure to make a mental note, and later, when I recounted the night in my journal, I wrote it down because I loved to learn little details like that. Music, of course, being the great communicator. The song would also be one I made sure to include in a mixtape I would make for her later. It was the first song I associated with her, and the one that instantly made me think of her all through high school. That moment, that feeling, would stick with me for quite some time. We continued to dance and talk through the night, and while trying to navigate if the crush I felt may be one-sided, I also felt like we were definitely developing a friendship that wasn't confined to choir or the occasional class. We talked about music and shows we liked and found common ground with the ever-classic Mystery Science Theater 3000. I told her I recorded episodes and I had a small collection, inviting her to come over sometime to watch some. She smiled and said that would be cool, and my feelings continued to grow. It's funny how in the moment, and in retrospect, where a friendship can grow, and my feelings continue to grow, and how significant all of this can feel, both then and now. As the night continued and the dances multiplied, I felt that this was not going to be just a fleeting friendship, and I also knew that the feelings I felt for her weren't going to be fleeting either. Then again, it's not just the joy of a high school crush, right? With coronation night in full swing, Jessica and I also wanted to make sure we had a few memories of our own. One was making sure we got a dance together, because, hey, we were friends, and it's all part of high school at that point, right? The second would be if our dance dates were taking a turn for the negative, or even worse, bailed on us, we would be there. Neither of us expected it. We were both going with really cool, amazing people, and we both thought it was cute we'd found dates. But we were still the couple the apartment complex saw, and even though we met at our dates at the dance, when we did see each other, we still couldn't hold back. "Look at you. You clean up pretty nice," Jessica said. "Dang, Jess, you look real pretty," I said with a bit of my Illinois twang, and may I have a dance? Emily was dancing with a friend of ours, and Jessica's date was taking a time out, so it aligned right. We, of course, had a bit of a laugh, a little, oh, if the complex could see us now. It just fit that we had our one dance, a little moment where even if just visually, it met what some had seemed to expect from us. We never had any conversation of dating between us. Jessica and I were always a team. We were buddies who never fought and never wanted the other to be alone. We even made one of those wonderful teenage pacts that if we were both single at 40, we were going to get married, travel the world, and raise hell. Because we always had each other's back. That's just the way it was. Emily and I actually spent more time with slow dances than fast ones, but we also kept an eye out for friends. We would run into people from choir or class, but I was hooked. That night, and seeing Emily, the one thing that shot into my mind was royalty. For a kid with a hero complex and smitten heart, it was the night I adopted a bit of a nickname for her. I called her my queen. With the last dance ending, Emily took her hands from around my neck. I offered her my arm, and we walked through the hallways of the school and out to the front, where Emily said she would be picked up. We stood together outside of the school, all smiles, and it only took a couple of minutes before Emily's mom pulled up and rolled down the window. "You both look very nice," she said, and I opened the passenger door for Emily. "Thank you very much, and for the chance to bring Emily," I responded. Emily gave me a hug, thanked me for asking her, and said she'd see me Monday. As she got into the car, and her mom pulled away, I waved, and she waved back. I watched her leave and was going to start on my way home when, to my surprise, my dad then pulled up, having been right behind Emily's mom. We lived right next to the school. It was a 3-minute walk to the apartments from the beach club eating area in the back parking lot. So I didn't know why my dad was there. He motioned for me to get in, and as I did, it then dawned on me that my dad wanted to be there for me to share in a memory that would be considered my first date. "So," he began, and we pulled out of the parking lot and began taking a short road trip instead of heading directly home. I met Mary Ann, Emily's mom. We were parked in the parking lot and stood outside our cars, waiting for the dance to get out, and started talking. She mentioned her daughter Emily was here with a Matt she knew from choir. And I told her that my son Matt was with an Emily he knew from choir. Oh. Oh, man, I said, feeling a flush of teenage nerves. "Nah, kid, it was fine. You both looked great, and it looked like you two had a lot of fun," he said, then added with a smile, "Though I think your mom and I will end up sitting with Emily's folks at concerts from now on." And they would. For 4 years. As it happens, sometimes you have to cut and edit, so we're just going to try this second part again. All right. Radio. What's new? Radio. Someone still loves you. In English, our teacher that year required an assignment for the class to break into small groups, 4 or 5 students, and to pick from a list of approved works and create a recreation of it. You could write an alternate version or do a live reenactment, and the team of Jessica, myself, and 2 other classmates who were friends of hers, Megan and CJ, were all together. First, we knew whatever we picked, we had 3 ladies and me, so someone might be looking to play an opposite sex part. Second was, we weren't exactly sure what we wanted to do. But then, we found our muse. Edgar Allan Poe had always been an enjoyable read for me, and through freshman year I had been revisiting some of his works. Unsurprising for a horror kid. I remembered learning The Raven back in elementary school, and during the year we had even touched on it in our English course. The team agreed on the short story The Cask of Amontillado, deciding we would do it as an old-time radio special, and we wanted to enhance it with sound effects and voice work. Jessica agreed to play the part of the drunken Fortunato, believing she could play it off as humorous as could be. I wrote a rough shooting script and would be the antagonist/narrator Montresor, while CJ and Megan would handle sound effects, crowd sounds, and help edit and polish up the script. Jessica, Megan, and I all met up at Jessica's apartment and walked to CJ's house to record it. I had a stereo that could record, and so I bought blank tapes, using them both for this assignment and also to make my own mixtapes of 80s music that I recorded off the radio. We bought or found stuff we could use for the sound effects: glasses, a bottle or something for a cork, stones, anything. When we got to the house, we got lunch and planned for this to be an all day thing if need be, which it ended up being just that. It was much more than just an assignment. We were four classmates and friends hanging out. We made so many blunders. And as the day wore on, we also realized time was starting to be an enemy. Okay, this is fun, but need to get this done, CJ said. We agreed with her, and it had started to rain. This is perfect. Can we open a window? Megan asked. We opened the window, and as the rain came down, we recorded what would be the perfect continuous take of the work of Poe. Jessica hammed it up as the doomed Fortunato, and I worked as best as I could to be a teenage Vincent Price. CJ and Megan cracked stones together as I entombed Jessica. Bells were jingled, laughter echoed, and we hit stop on the recorder. That's it, Jessica said. We played it back. We played it back a second time, and we all agreed it sounded perfect, and we separated for the day. Jessica and I walked back to the apartment complex in the rain, doing everything we could to keep the tape safe. She spent the time remaking her jovial laughter, and it just kept cracking me up. When we turned in the assignment and played it for the class, it went exactly as we wanted it to. Equal parts laughs, thanks to Jessica, equal part vintage performance art and sound from CJ and Megan and me, getting to perform my writing, albeit as a villain and an homage to Poe's work. It was my first attempt at a script, and I was quite proud of it. While the wall between Jessica and I in the story was one of a literary nature, sadly, we weren't done with separation. That would come later. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this recording of Teen Angst, That Fucker, the freshman years. I do plan to record shortly after this one of the other things that I ended up getting known for a little bit in my freshman years. One I would even revisit later. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Thanks again for watching. Be good to yourself, and remember, keep on rolling.